let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm delighted to have Sara with us as our guest. Thank you, Liz, for being here. My name is Donna Miller, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Purse Power. Purse Power is working to help women use their massive purchasing power to drive positive change. We believe that if women who make 80% of all purchasing decisions would choose to buy from the companies that actively promote women, and we would do that in mass, and we could create a funding stream for battered women's shelters in the process, that we could shatter glass ceilings and change lives. So that's what Purse Power is trying to do. We're going to be in webinar format today. The reason why is that because we tape the program. We do this every Friday, and we have amazing guests on our program. If you ever want to go see our prior speakers, you can go to pursepower.com, and underneath the Let's Share the Journey tab, and you can see all the people we've had on the program. We have tremendous speakers, and Liz is one of them here. So it's every Friday at 10 Central. We provide a chance for everybody to get to know each other during our monthly networking sessions. Our next one is on the 25th. So the fourth Friday of every month is an open networking. We just get people to get to know each other live. The purpose of the calls is to try to connect you with each other, connect you with national leaders like Liz, learn during the pandemic, just to support everybody as we go through these difficult times. If I have any shareholders online, thank you so much for being here. Okay, I'll introduce Liz. Please share your comments via the chat. If you have questions you want to ask, go ahead and put them over in the Q&A block, and that's where we're going to be looking when we incorporate questions into the discussion. Let's see here. Anything else we need to say? All right, so let me go ahead and introduce Liz. Liz is the president of the SCORE Foundation, and she's got more than 30 years of experience in the national entrepreneurship community. In January of 2022, she became the president of the SCORE Foundation. And that's the philanthropic arm of SCORE, which provides free mentoring and business programs to small business owners and entrepreneurs around the country. And you have got some amazing services. And you're going to be telling us more about that in just a minute here. Okay, prior to joining the foundation, she ran a strategy firm, Marketing LLC, which of course as an entrepreneur is something really critical to all of us. And she focused on early stage and growth stage tech companies. In 2018, she was appointed by the president as the chair of the National Women's Business Council, a federal agency that advocates for female founders. She is the past board chair of the Dingman Center for Entrepreneurship at the University of Maryland, and the past mentor of startup CEOs and incubators and accelerators in the Washington, D.C. area. She also invests her own capital in women-owned startups as an angel investor. Thank you for doing that. That is amazing. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We want to get to know you. So please give us a little bit of your backstory and how you arrived at this place in your life and career.
Great, Donna. Well, thanks so much for having me on your program today. I'm really looking forward to our conversation and hoping that it's the first of many that we get to have going forward. So I've been in the entrepreneurial world my entire career. And back in the early days, we didn't know it as that. We didn't call it that. You never even heard that word. We all at that point thought we're just working for companies that are new and small, and they had exciting things that were on their plate, and all in the technology space. So I worked for big companies that were creating what we now call like entrepreneurial organizations within their big company. And that was really all about, let's try to get some innovation together and launch a new product. And so big companies like LexisNexis did this. And again, we never heard that word entrepreneurial, and that's exactly what we were doing. So I spent really the early years of my career on the business side of taking very disruptive technologies into the market successfully. And what intrigued me about the technology, not being a software programmer or a computer science major, but a business major and a business, oriented executive, was how that technology was going to change the way you and I interact with our family and friends, the way you and I buy products, the way you and I work in our job and use technology to change how things used to be on pen and paper. So those were the things that really excited me. I even worked with organizations, if some of you would remember, the early days of America Online. And, that was a very groundbreaking company in fostering this online digital community of people that would post things on message boards and send emails to each other and otherwise just interact in ways that didn't include the telephone or sending a letter in the mail. very groundbreaking in that people didn't know what that really was all about. I then went on to co-found a software company with two co-founders, both males, and one of them was our lead technology guru. So he was building our platform. The other was going to fund it through his own bank account and through his own financial means. And they brought me in as part of the three-legged stool to figure out, well, what should we build and how should we price it and who's going to buy it and how do we make money? So that was really during the entire decade of the 90s, the early part of which, when we launched it, there was no internet. Everything was still online, phone dial-up, if any of that, makes sense, if anybody has read about that, because I'm sure those of you that were born after that, just kind of look at that from the books you read or the blogs that you are in touch with. By about the mid-90s, the internet started to take hold. And it seems that overnight, companies went from thinking, how can I do what I'm doing in a private dial-up world to just doing it on what everybody called then the World Wide Web. So I immediately saw, as the co-founder, that our business model was going to go away pretty quickly if we didn't figure out how to pivot to take advantage of this new platform called the web. So I pivoted us into what was a very early up and coming industry called e-commerce. And we successfully entered that e-commerce world. We raised lots of venture capital because we had to create a whole new platform with a whole new focus. And we built that up in about 3 years, from like 97 when I did the relaunch to 2000 to about 25 million. We were up to about 300 employees.
Wow.
So it was a really fast trajectory. In the year 2000, we were planning to go public, but that was the year, for those of you who read or were there to remember, it was when the dot-com bubble burst. So access to the capital markets through, a stock offering just were not going to happen, was not ideal. So ultimately, we sold a company in 2001. And at that point, I had to think about, well, now what am I going to do? And as I was sort of spending time figuring that part out, a couple of local DC area tech startup CEOs reached out to me and said, look, we can't bring you on as our CEO because I'm still here, but we've read about what you've done and we want to see if you'd come and help us for a few months. So what was going to be a few months of my time in early 2001, helping this company or that company, turned out to be 20 years. And over those 20 years, I kind of formalized what I was doing and built my marketing strategy agency. And I exclusively worked with DC, Maryland, and Virginia early stage and growth stage tech companies, and probably had over 100 clients in that time frame. And toward the end of it, as you had mentioned, I got involved with the Center of Entrepreneurship at the University of Maryland, which was one of my alma maters, of course, and became chair, first female chair in 30 years of that, and helped raise the visibility of that center, not just on the campus, but in the local market, improved our board and increased the contributions and built our endowment, and then was brought to the attention of the president and became the chair of the National Women's Business Council. So I recently concluded my 3-year term there of advocating for female founders around the country, making recommendations to Congress and to the White House and to SBA and other agencies on specific things that they could do or things they could stop doing that will help more women business owners get their ideas off the ground into a new company, or help grow the ones they already had in place and remove some of the roadblocks and some of the challenges they were facing. So my hiring into the SCORE Foundation really fits so perfectly with the world that I've been operating in, which is supporting entrepreneurship and helping startup businesses get to that next level. And I couldn't be more thrilled to be part of this whole SCORE family going forward.
Very exciting. Wow. 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 I spent 10 years of my career in the computer industry, and I actually remember when the web first started. So yeah. I was there too. Yeah.
There are some of us that remember those days firsthand, for better or worse, and it was not an easy time. Yeah.
No. No, fun though, in some ways. Okay, so tell us more about the mission of the SCORE Foundation and what you're trying to accomplish as the new leader.
Sure. So SCORE has been around for decades, Donna. And in some circles, it is so well known. And in other circles, they're like, tell us more what it is all about. So I hope that your listeners and participants today, if they don't need a SCORE service, will introduce a friend. So SCORE provides for free mentoring around the country. There are 10,000 business executives that volunteer their time to become a mentor. And they provide free advice, usually to the startup owners and small business leaders in their community. So it's organized by chapter. There are about 240 chapters around the country, and people can sign up to get a mentor. And how that matchmaking works, very easy over the score.org website. Click the button that says request a mentor. And it's a simple wizard. You go through, I've actually done it just to see the process so that I could explain it today. You just say, I need help in an area of finance or accounting, or I need help with HR issues, or I need a tax attorney or an IP attorney. And then you get matched up with someone in that geography. Same thing can take place with those of you who are seasoned business executives that might be interested in becoming a mentor. You can click the button that says become a mentor and talk about what your expertise is and why you'd like to help startup and early stage small business founders. And then you get matched up as well. So the things that SCORE provides above and beyond the mentoring, and that's a huge part of it, are programs and templates and content to help all small business owners. So there's a business template. Here's the steps to follow if you're putting a business plan together. There are checklists, there are e-guides, there are webinars with expert speakers on various topics, from marketing to financing your company to how do you get a business loan. All of these programs live forever in the recordings on the SCORE website, and those are available for free. So SCORE is funded by government donations and grants, as well as private sector donations and grants. And so my role with the foundation and my plans for going forward are to tap more corporations that are interested and already have part of their philanthropic mission, an interest and road to actually support small business owners, whether it's in their community or whether it's across the country. So an example of a community-focused effort might be a local bank that wants to help the small business owners be more prepared when they come into the bank to request a commercial loan. Or on a national level, it could be a company like, FedEx, who is one of the SCORE sponsors, provide programs such as the Startup Roadmap, which is a set of tools that they've helped sponsor the SCORE group put together to offer all small business owners around the country. And so by, being more actively focused on looking at large organizations, public or private, or large foundations that support small business in one way or another, I think we can provide even more programs that could help underserved segments of the small business population. So there are programs geared to women small business owners, Hispanic small business owners, veteran small business owners, women of color, and other minority small business owners. And I'm always on the lookout for organizations that might have one of those areas as part of their own philanthropic mission that might want to learn how to get involved with SCORE to prop up those entrepreneurs on a national level.
Very good, very good. Can you talk a little bit about the women-specific programs you may have?
Yeah, so many of the women programs are done on the local level through various chapters. And, of those 240 chapters, so many of them will do things like business roundtables that are women owners, let's say. And there's, great engagement and networking and support that can be gained by women sharing their stories, sharing their pitfalls with each other, saying, oh no, if you're going out to do this and you're focusing on this market, I did that 3 years ago, and here's what I learned, and don't do it this way, do it that way. And so by hosting and sponsoring these small business roundtables for women, it helps women accomplish that networking that we all know is so important to getting to that next level. There are women business competitions, and I'm talking to some potential individual donors right now that are interested to provide prize money so that in the various chapters that are hosting those business pitch competitions, we can offer real dollars to those women. And we all know that when you're getting your company off the ground, it takes a lot of your time, but it also takes a lot of your own pocketbook to make that happen. And a $500 prize that is non-dilutive funding can help you get a website up, or can help you file the papers to incorporate in your local community, in your state, and get your federal tax ID number. So in the beginning, a little money can go a long way to helping that entrepreneur get that business started. And then women business owners are just like every other startup business owner. You need some core basic 101 tools and resources that everybody needs, whether you're a fashion company or a food truck. They're the basic business 101s. And all of those tools are readily available. And, I invite women and I invite other entrepreneurs to take a look at what some of those resources are, because they're free.
Yeah, very good, very good. So how do you feel about women and entrepreneurship and its impact on creating a better future for women and girls?
Well, I think it's important when we look at the numbers, for example. So today, quoting some of the recent or latest American Express survey on women numbers. Let me share a couple of things that are going to be interesting to all of your listeners, because when I first heard them, they were interesting. In many ways, they were shocking. So back when women businesses were first counted, and that only happened in the early 1970s by the US Business Census. So until then, there was no way to look at what impact did women businesses have on the nation's economy. So back in around 77 is when the gender question for the first time was added to the business survey that the census does. So what we learned from that first survey in 77 was that small businesses owned by women made up about 4.6% of all businesses in the nation. So here we are about 50 years later, and I'm thrilled to say that women-owned small businesses now make up about 46% of all small businesses in the country.
Wow.
Here's a couple of very interesting data points. So currently there are, and depending on which survey you quote from, there are about 12.5 million women-owned small businesses. Of that, 90% have no employees. They are solopreneurs. So we're talking 10.5 to 11 million of that 12.5 million women-owned businesses are solopreneurs. Here's another shocking point. So of that 10.5 million, half of them, roughly 5 million, generate less than $10 million in annual revenue. So there is a small number of women-owned businesses that generate more than 1 million or more into the economy. And this is why when we look at 5 million women-owned businesses generating like less than $1,000 a month, having access to mentors where it's not going to cost you anything, having access to the tools and the support groups that are going to help you speed the time to market to get your business really off the ground and acquire the expertise that you need to be able to hire that first person. Maybe it's half-time in the beginning, but we really want to support getting more of those women that are the solopreneurs on that road to scalability, because they will make a huge difference in terms of economic impact to their community, job creation in their community, and overall diversity in their community of the products and services that are offered. So many women small businesses tend to be in the industries that I will call traditional for women. They are service oriented, they're hair salons, they're bakeries, they're boutiques. And we also, not only do we want to support those kinds of companies because they make the neighborhoods we choose to live in vibrant and unique and exciting to be there. But we also want to help women who have aspirations for growth-oriented companies, so that those companies that have a national footprint and have national representation can bring the number of women to that national table. We're doing great on the local level, ladies. We also want to help get more women who are running scalable companies having a footprint on the national and then global level. And this is really important for so many reasons, because we've all read the different studies and the various books on how women leaders have a very different approach to leadership than our male counterpoints. And it brings that voice, if you will, to the business presence locally, at the state level, at the region, and at the national level. And we want more women owners at that national level too.
Amen. Amen. It's interesting. Is it a matter of skill and knowledge, which is what you were just talking about, and SCORE can help with that? Or is there anything else that's getting in our way as women? Are there any other reasons? Yeah.
There is. We all need to have more confidence in ourselves. And I think there is a perception among women that, well, gee, I didn't take that in school, so I don't know anything about, being in the manufacturing sector. I was a history major, I was an art major, I was a sociology major, I was a business major. I don't know anything about manufacturing. But meanwhile, she's seeing a huge need in her community for women-owned companies that, can get into that space. And so we need to believe in ourselves. And if we don't, then we need to get a support group that we can tap into that will tell us why we can do that. When I talk to groups around the country, especially of groups with women in tech, the first thing that I say is, look, you don't have to be a software programmer to start a technology company, because every company needs expertise in the basic business areas of running a company: marketing, finance, sales, etc. I had no background in software. I continue to have no background in software, but I understand it from the business side. And so for me, starting a company with my co-founders in software made perfect sense. I love what the technology was all about. Don't ask me to do a line of code. I would have no idea how to do it, and I don't need to, nor would I ever be able to. But my partner had that. And so to the women out there that are looking at starting something outside of your core experience, get a partner, get a co-founder, get somebody to join up with you, because that's the way you'll be able to make it happen. We don't have to know every single facet of a business we're interested in getting off the ground in order to make it successful. We have to know what our strengths are and where we could go to fill those gaps that we have. So I had no background in software development, but fortunately, one of my three did. And that's how we close the gap, check the box there. And so I invite women to say, don't think that you can't do it. If you're excited and you see a need in your market for something that is outside of your core experience, put it together with other people. And that's another reason to get a mentor, because they may be able to open doors for you. Like, oh, I know such and such a person because I just coached them last week. You two would be great together. And so, there's a lot of matchmaking that goes on that way. And we have to look at ourselves as, we don't need to know 100% of everything to do it well. Men certainly don't. If you look at a job description and there's 10 bullets, if the guy's got 3 of those bullets, he thinks, I need to be that person. Women sometimes look at those 10 bullets and say, well, I only have 9, so I guess I'm not going to be good enough for this. No, we need to have confidence in ourselves because we can do it. And having a mentor network that is readily available can help us get to that confidence level by introducing us to people that can help us in those areas that we may not have the experience in.
I love that. I was getting ready to make that same comment. We need to have faith in ourselves. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so the pandemic has kind of set us back. I mean, I remember hearing Melinda Gates say that we were like 208 years from gaining equality before the pandemic. Where do we stand today? And what's it going to take to regain our momentum?
So lots of small businesses closed as a result of the pandemic. They just couldn't make it work. When everything is closed and you've got a restaurant, if you're not geared up to do delivery or takeout, or took too long to get that together, maybe you didn't make it. But here is an encouraging piece of information. Adversity can often bring about the opportunity for opportunity. Mm-hmm. And opportunity calls for entrepreneurism. There was an article in the Washington Post, which is in my backyard, I live in DC, about a year ago. And it had some interesting statistics about the number of new businesses started in that prior quarter. So the last quarter of 2020, that was our first year of the pandemic, 1.5 new businesses were formed. 1.5 million new businesses were formed.
Wow.
Well, how do we know that? Well, they requested a federal tax ID number, so very easy to track. That 1.5 million new businesses that were formed in Q4 of 2020 is an 82% increase from the fourth quarter of the year before.
Holy smokes.
So what do we see? We see lots of people that may not have had their job any longer or left their full-time employment say, now is my time. I've always had this idea to do this or this. I'm going to do it. I'm home. I've got the time. And so often a bad situation and adversity can spur that entrepreneurial thinking and get that entrepreneur at a place where the time is now right. Yeah. And so with those 1.5 million new businesses, we see lots of organizations in place, such as SCORE with the mentoring, other incubators that we see in many communities that are there to share their network, bring entrepreneurs and early stage companies together. And what I'm very happy to see on a national basis is so many companies offering grants to small businesses. So whether it's businesses started by women of color, businesses started by, people of Hispanic background, or women in general, or even just businesses in general, like the FedEx Small Business Grant, which is still open. So any of you that have a small business, get on their website and see how you can apply. So there is more money available now to support small businesses than ever before.
Wow.
It is a good time to start a small business. And Donna, you and I were talking before we started on, there are a lot of digital-based businesses that are very easy to start without a lot of capital. Mm-hmm. And so don't wait. There is never the right time to start your company. You have to decide you've got the energy, enthusiasm to do it now, do it. There's tons of resources available. And for the first time, there's lots of money available.
Fantastic. That is great. All right, guys, be thinking of your questions. Go ahead and put them in the Q&A block. We'll ask questions here in a second. So with your role as the chairwoman or chairman of the National Women's Business Council, you have a holistic view of the entrepreneurial system. What are the trends that you see on the horizon and the implications for us? How can we capitalize on them?
Yeah. So, there are pockets of opportunity that are just ripe for serious help. And one of the issues and one of those opportunities lies with founders and would-be entrepreneurs in rural communities. In traveling around the country during my tenure at the Women's Business Council, we would host roundtables with women leaders and entrepreneurs in big cities like LA and in small towns like Nampi, Idaho, which I had never been to before. And what really amazed me was the entrepreneurship excitement alive and thriving in these small communities, but with the struggles that those of us that live in big urban centers don't face. Number one, we've got lots of networking opportunities in just about every capital across the country. There are women's organizations, there are small business organizations, there are offices of the Small Business Administration that are there to help those small business owners. But in rural communities, even in a community outside Des Moines, Iowa, where we also hosted a roundtable, you don't have that. You don't have that breadth of support. So what can women do? What can other small business owners do? Is look for those national opportunities where you can get the advice and support you need, whether it's SCORE, whether it's organizations that support small business in general, whether it's your local economic development office, whose mission is to attract businesses to that area and help them with whatever they need to get to that next level. The other challenge for small business owners and entrepreneurs in rural communities, which is hard for us that live in big cities to actually believe, is that there isn't broadband everywhere. And everything today, including today's workforce working from their home or going to a hybrid model where some of it will be working from your home and some of it from your office, makes it that much more difficult in a rural community. So we absolutely need to make sure, and we've made many recommendations at the National Women's Business Council, how do we get funding to bring broadband to those small communities so that they can share what the digital world can do for those of us in a big city equally there. And so supporting small business ownership and would-be small businesses themselves in rural communities is a way for us to have a dramatic impact on job creation there, which is so important, as well as the impact to the economy. So an organization that Steve Case started years ago called Revolution has a whole component called Rise of the Rest. And he gets on the bus and they travel around to small cities around the country, not New York, not Chicago, but other cities in Illinois. And they do competitions and he gives out money to the small businesses in those areas, because we have to make innovation and entrepreneurship as accessible to everyone around the country, not just if you live in a big city, because that is going to help impact our overall economy and job creation everywhere. Absolutely. We don't want to lose people in those small communities who have to live and move to Chicago or Dallas or Los Angeles to take advantage of being in an entrepreneurial environment or community. It needs to be everywhere. And his organization is doing a great job with that. And given the constraints that COVID and working from home created, well, the SCORE network now can function very easily by phone and Zoom than in the prior COVID days of face-to-face meetings. So now if you're living in a small town in Oklahoma, for example, you may need a mentor with business background if you're looking to start a fashion company. That might be in New York City, which is, the fashion center of the United States. And so it kind of makes it a little bit more readily available to get the kinds of support and advice. And listen, women, remember, we're always a lot better at asking advice from men because, before the GPS, we were the ones that would stop the car and ask for directions when we were lost, not our husbands and boyfriends. And so this is just a natural extension. Business advice comes as readily, easily available as, hey, turn right at the red light and go left.
Perfect. Okay, we're starting to get some questions. So Nan McKay, who has a podcast, by the way, Trailblazers Impact, and we'll be replaying this on her channel, is asking, what suggestions do you have to reach women over 50 who want to start a business?
Well, I think that there are numerous organizations that are geared toward women business owners. I'll rattle off a few, and many of them have chapters. So I would encourage anyone who is in that demographic group to reach out to these chapters. So start with your SCORE chapters because we assist entrepreneurs of every age level. Women's President Organization has chapters around the country. The National Association of Women Business Owners, NAWBO, has chapters around the country. WeBank, the Women's Entrepreneur and Business Council, is arranged on a geographic basis. So just Google it and you'll find the chapters that might match what your needs are in your backyard. In addition, big industry trade associations like the American Builders Association has a subset group called Women in Construction, and they're arranged in chapters. So if your startup idea has to do with the building and construction industry in one fashion or another, look in your industry for chapters of large national organizations that might have support and resources or advisors available with the expertise that might be relevant to your specific sector.
Okay, very good. Let's see here. Case Lane is asking, what advice did you give the government about removing obstacles for women owners?
Well, we did it in 3 categories because there's lots of obstacles. So, the one category I mentioned briefly earlier had to do with how can we help women business owners in rural communities. The other 2 areas had to do with how do we encourage more women to get into STEM-related startups and STEM-related businesses rather than the traditional ones, because the STEM ones, as I alluded to earlier, are the scalable ones, are the ones that are venture backable, not so much the bakery that you're interested to own on Main Street. Not to criticize that, but part of the recommendations were, how do we get more women at a national level with a seat at that table? So in the STEM area, it's how do we get different agencies that might have grants available to support STEM-related innovations like the National Science Foundation? How do we get word out to the women nationally that might have an innovation that could qualify for a grant? Because we know access to capital is so key. And that brings me to the third area, which is access to capital. How do we make it easier for women to get that bank loan? How do we make it easier for women, to tap into the dollars that might be available through private investors? So you had mentioned, or I had mentioned, that I do investing as an angel in companies in my local area. So we supported legislation that was introduced a couple of years ago that would provide a federal tax credit for any individual in the country who invested in a small business. I was hoping that we could just focus in on women's small business, but we can't not do gender specific legislation. And so that legislation still is somewhere in Congress. At some point, I hope it will be taken up again. But just imagine if we can help make private dollars available and encouraged by every small community that has the wealthy doctors and the wealthy car dealership owners, who I'm sure would be really interested to support the local bakery and the local restaurant. Like, hey, come to my restaurant. I own part of this restaurant. So we wanted to find ways to make it easier to get third-party dollars, which are out there because we've got hundreds of angel groups around the country supporting unique industry specific things, but we want to make sure all communities are touched by that opportunity. And we hope that legislation might see light of day at some point.
Yeah, boy, me too. Me too. And I'll bet you the SBA has courses on getting financing. I'm sure that Entrepreneur Magazine has some resources too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, we recognize the need for women to understand the importance of having financial literacy, because if you're going to walk into your community bank, you've got to be pretty knowledgeable about the numbers of your business. You need to have balance sheets, you need to have income statements, you need to have a good credit score, and it needs to be over 700. And so there's lots of courses that the SBA has available on their website. It's a very big website. You'll have to do some searching, but there's lots of information there that will help you improve your financial literacy. And if you have difficulty even with that, get yourself a mentor that can help. Request a mentor that has a financial background, or might be a CPA in your community that is willing to help you put those documents together. The more prepared you are, the more confident you're going to be, and the better you're going to look at the banking relationship, that you know what you're doing and you're confident in your business. So it's important.
Sure is. Well, speaking of topics of interest, Nan is asking, what topics do you think women, are most interested in learning about today that might be presented in a summit?
Frankly, I think access to capital is one of the top three that will come up, because it is a challenge that not just women face, but every small business owner faces. And the number one reason why businesses fail is lack of access to that capital. It isn't they didn't know what to do, or they didn't have enough customers. They didn't have enough money to get that product into the market in the way it needed in order to get the attention of the target market, to start building that customer base. And so access to capital is really critical. And it's not just bank loans, it's what grants can I qualify for? It's, how can I tap into, third-party sources. There's SBA-backed loans that are available through community banks. So I encourage people to look into those community banks that offer SBA-backed loans, because that will be another source of capital that perhaps you never even knew existed. And then get on the mailing list of so many different organizations that are offering grants in their particular area. So if you're a food company, there are grants for startups in the food industry. If you're a fashion or clothing or beauty products company, there are grants from large companies in those sectors for startups in that area. And so be broad in your search and get on those networks so that when the announcements come, you're right there to take advantage of it, to see if it fits what you're planning to do.
Yeah, you're bringing up a really interesting point. So I've looked at grants websites, and there's a charge, and I don't know whether they're valuable or not. And so you're saying network with the organizations that might have the grants is the best way to do it?
I think networking in general in your industry is really important, because that's where you can share information about these kinds of things, coming down the pike. There's lots of digital groups that you can join for free, like Hello Alice, like Alley to the Valley, meaning Alley, New York City to the Valley, Silicon Valley, across the country, that heavily promote opportunities for men and women business owners. And look in your community, because there are lots of incubators and accelerators that are doing pitch competitions with prize money. So see what's going on in your backyard. There are women's business centers around the country, more than 150 right now. And they get funding from SBA and from the government to provide business services at no cost for women business owners. So tap into that network as well. So, Google needs to be your best friend to find all of these things, and then get involved, sign up, and, be part of that information stream as it's happening in real time. They're competitive,
Absolutely. Oh, that's great. That's great advice. All right. Any further questions, guys, for now? While we're waiting for any further questions they have, are there some things that you really want us to have learned from you today? So give me your top three.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that number one, people have learned that there is a free mentor network and programs out there through SCORE. And I invite everyone who might be interested in connecting with me on LinkedIn. So I'm Sara on LinkedIn, and I regularly post information about money available to small business owners, about grants, about competitions, and about interesting things that will help you on your entrepreneurial journey.
Very good. So what are the top three actions you want us to take? And if there's any help you want from us for SCORE, please tell us that as well.
Well, number one, I'd love to know if you're working in a large organization that has a philanthropic arm or an internal focus on helping entrepreneurs, whether it's minority entrepreneurs or women entrepreneurs or whatever. Please bring them to my attention. Connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know about it, because we would love to embrace more large organizations that are willing to help entrepreneurship through their underwriting of more programs that we can put together. So that would be one. The other is, if you want to be a mentor, heck, we need more mentors that are various backgrounds, both, ethnic and race, and of women as well as men that have unique business experiences. So join us as a mentor, or at least apply through the score.org website. And if you've decided that you might need a mentor or a sounding board, even if it's just to have one session to see whether your business idea has any legs, go and get a mentor application going by clicking the I Want a Mentor button on the score.org site.
Perfect. What are the criteria for being a mentor?
I think you have to have some amount of experience in the industry that you say you want to do some coaching in. And the wizard that's on that site kind of walks you through a couple of things. Tell us about your background, tell us about the areas that you'd like to provide coaching in. And then it's sort of a matchmaking thing that then occurs in the background with those chapters in the geography that you're located, to say, well, we've got 5,000 people. I exaggerate the number, that all want to do legal advice. So we don't need legal today, but stay tuned. And if we have some requests with people looking for your specific kind of legal advice, great. So I'd say proceed, make it known that you're available and interested to help.
Okay, very good. Yeah, the people that I've met have been amazing. I mean, very down to earth, very, very knowledgeable. I love their style. They've been tremendous. All right. Do you have any final thought? Oh, we got another question. Okay. Deborah Woods, what's your best advice for networking and building relationships when you move into a new industry as an entrepreneur? I'm a Mayo Clinic trained certified wellness coach who'd like to support and foster workplace and organizational wellness.
So there's a couple of local organizations in every geography that you can look into. One would be the universities that are there. Most universities, even at the community college level, have entrepreneurship programs. So get involved with those, and you might be able to become a mentor to students. You might be able to be introduced to other people in your industry that are working with entrepreneurship. Look at the different organizations that are, I'll call them trade association chapters, that might be in your industry, in your geography, because most trade associations have a reach in all of the 50 states. So there might be ways for you to get involved there. Look in your industry, coaching. So there are professional societies geared to executives in the coaching and training arena. Get involved with those. They all do monthly get-togethers, virtual or live or what have you, so that you could network with other people that provide the same services. So look at the associations, look at the universities, look at the government organizations like the economic development centers, and look at the broader industry organizations that support small business.
Okay, let's see here. I've got another question from Pat Loft asking, does SCORE offer mentors that I can connect with virtually that may be a match for my needs on a national level?
Absolutely. And as you look for mentors and fill out that mentor questionnaire, you can request that you want a virtual mentor, or you want mentors that are only available face-to-face, or that you're willing to just do the mentoring by phone. So you can specify the mode of the way you want that mentoring delivered. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I want to add on to your answer for Deborah. The other thing I think is useful to do sometimes is go join the associations of your customers. Yes. So be the one in the room with customers surrounding you or potential customers surrounding you, and take a leadership role so you get visibility. Like in her question, I would say the HR associations might be the place she could go to meet people that would hire her.
Absolutely. That's great advice, Donna. I agree.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think we've captured the questions. Are there any final comments you'd like to share? Any final thoughts?
No, I would love to be connected to all of you. So please don't hesitate to connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love any of your suggestions of organizations that we should talk about partnering with so that we can help more women and male small business owners get their companies to success, and more that will be thriving in their communities.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, it's been great having you here. You've given us tremendous insights, and please do take her up on her offer, guys. Do connect with Liz on LinkedIn. I just want to quickly tell you about the upcoming guests, so we'll go ahead and close the program. So on February 25th, we have the networking session. On March 4th, I have Ann Lindsay coming. She's an image consultant, and she's going to talk about both the wardrobe for spring of 2022 and also how to appear your very best on Zoom. So that, I really want to hear from her. On March 11th, I have Diane Forster. She is a TV host, podcast, and coach who's going to teach us how to get on TV. We've got Hannah Kane coming, the CEO of Alum, on March 18th, and she may be somebody I should connect you with, by the way. So Hannah Kane's going to be here. She's running a very big business. And then we've got networking again at the end of March. We're going to be implementing a new program for underprivileged women to get access to technology careers. So stay tuned. We're partnering with McLaren Strategic Ventures to put a program in place. We're going to try to get more women into technology. That's what we're going to try to do, young people in particular. If you have an interest in supporting this program, please go to Let's Share the Journey on our website and buy us a cup of coffee. I hope you like and share our social media pages with your friends and family. And please tell people about this program. We do it every Friday. We have amazing speakers like Liz on every week. This is a really great place to be, and we hope you come back and join us again. Any final thoughts on your part, Liz?
No, thank you so much for inviting me today. And I really look forward to both staying in touch with you and signing up for some of those sessions, especially how to look good on Zoom, boy. And thank you to everyone who participated today. And I hope to connect with you in the future.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you very much. I hope everybody has a terrific weekend. And please remember, purse power, we have it. Let's use it. Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.